rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.
Hello and welcome to this project. I actually started it before I turned on the camera because I wasn't planning on filming this. What my current situation is I have 3 Project 201 machines that were in my queue. And I decided that, you know what, off camera, I was just gonna go ahead and rebuild all of their potted motors, you know, kind of like assembly line style, and get it over with so when I was ready, I could work on them. And so I got my first machine up here and I got started with it, and it's very bad in the electric. I don't know what happened to this machine. I guess something must have gotten poured on it. My husband said, well, diesel fuel or something can do that. But basically, all of the rubber around all of the wiring melted into a tarry goo. Stop it, hang on a second. I gotta put my cat out. She kept banging into the tripod. Anyway, something melted everything. So where the wiring was back here that went from the motor into the little block, all tar. Let me show you. The motor itself, you can kind of see, it was down to bare wires. Basically, it was bare wires with goo, okay? And my problem with this is that from what I can tell looking in here, it's also got damaged inside the wraps. I don't trust this motor anymore. It was terrible. Everything about this motor and everything was terrible. Even on here, I don't know if you can see, it was covered in a liquid of some kind, and they're fraying. The wraps on these copper wires are all fraying and coming loose. So this motor is no good. So with that, I was like, well, I'm gonna get my second machine, because this was, I had like a bad condition, a middle condition, and a really good condition. My really good condition is still over on my table. At least I think it's really good condition at this point, okay? So I got my other machine out here. This machine that looks rusty from the outside had a very clean motor. So basically what I have decided to do is create a parts bucket and create one good machine. So I can use the parts from my Motor Nightmare machine that are not rusty, and I can use all of the electrics and everything from my more rusty machine, and everything else that I'm not using, I'm just creating a parts bin for 201, and whenever I come across another extra spare potted motor or something, I'll have all that, or I'll have a whole bunch of 201 parts handy. So that's my process. I've just been, I got this one taken apart to the same extent that this one is. So now each and every part that I take off, I'm just comparing which one is better, because they're very similar in years. I think that I have, for my 3 machines, I have like a 39, a 42, and a 45. And from what I can tell, so far all the parts are the same. So I'm just gonna pick the best of both and make a machine and a parts bin. Let me show you the good motor that I'm keeping. Okay, so when I pull this out, you can see this is shiny, it's clean. Yeah, it had some carbon in it, but nothing like the gooey mess in the other. I did pull out the brush holders. I have labeled them. This is the one that goes on the bottom of the motor. This is the one that goes on the top of the motor, so I won't get those confused. I will be replacing this wire, but even so, it is still flexible. It's not a disaster, you know. So this is good. I like this. I'm happy with this. In my little baggie of parts, I'll show you, I also have already polished. This does have the little fiber washer here, but I've already slightly polished right here and cleaned out in between. So this is good and, in my opinion, ready to go. So I believe at this point, since, you know, I started this off camera, I wasn't planning on showing everybody, but I will now. I'm just going to start carefully taking off piece by piece and comparing, separating, and then putting them in baggies, because I'm going to go ahead and do a full makeover on one of my 201s. The other one, I'm not sure what I'll do with it yet. Okay, so what I've decided to do, this is the bottom of the machine where all of the wiring melted, okay? This is the bottom of the machine that had a good motor, which I have pulled off. I've pulled off the light and everything from both of them. At this point, this one that had the melted motor looks much cleaner, much less rusty, much easier to deal with, you know, the exception of my tar up here, than this one. This is the one I pulled the motor off. It actually, the brushes in the motor are barely used, and I think that this is still a viable machine. It's just the components are a lot more rusty. The needle bar is rusty. I've got rusty things on it. You know, I can clean up rust. I just don't, I would rather start with a better one first. So at this point, this is my plan. I'm just going to set this one aside with a bin with all of the parts I have already pulled off. Keep that as a unit over there, okay? As I'm taking this one apart, if I find something that I'm not pleased with, I will see if this one has a better option, and if so, then I'll switch them out. That way, this one will still somewhat stay intact, so that if I do get another potted motor, you know, random out of the air, I can just have another complete machine that I can there continue to strip down and everything. So that's my plan. This is the one I'm going to be working on. Like I said, I did already pull the light off and the wiring for the light off, and it was just as gooey and melted as the motor wiring. Whatever dealt with this, it was totally inside the cavity too. It was just, I don't know, it was wild. Someone must have sprayed something crazy in there. It's my only thought. I just don't know. But it does turn, so I think that we're going to be good. Okay, so back over here at my work table. Where to start? You know what? I think I'm going to start by pulling off the tension, which is obviously way down here that you cannot see. So let me get a little cloth to lay my components on. Ooh, it is froze up. It is locked up. Okay, hang on one sec. There is a little screw in the casting right here behind the place where the tension goes in that I am assuming is locking in some kind of a little sleeve. I have not actually pulled apart one of these in a long time. So I was going to see if that would release everything. And it feels like it kind of is. It might just be a little bit stuck, but it feels like everything is coming out. Give me 1 second to wiggle a little bit more. Okay, so that released this whole little mechanism here, okay? I'm just gonna leave it as is, like that for a minute. I see something that looks kind of like a cog inside, but I don't know that I can get to that from this angle. So this is very dirty. There's lint and oil and everything holding it together. So I'm just going to put this in a baggie, complete, and I'll take it apart later. While I'm down here, I'm just going to go ahead and take off the needle clamp, if I can, the presser foot and things like that. It does have a needle in it that's not destroyed, so that's good. Usually if I see a needle that's completely broken or bent or something, it might be a clue that it's out of alignment, but this looks pretty good, so happy with that. Let me turn it over here. Okay, so grimy little foot and screw, but complete. That's going to go in a baggie that will become the baggie that all of the presser bar stuff goes into. That's just the beginning of it there. I'm going to go ahead and pull the front plate off, and actually the back plate too, get those set aside. While I'm doing simple things, I'm going to also pull off this little tension guide thingy that's for guiding the bobbin winding thread, you know. Again, grody and dirty, but functional. And I am going to be taking off the plates down here too. I am seeing quite a bit of lint in this machine. This is the one where the engine was melted, motor was melted, whatever. And the brushes on this machine were wore down quite short. So this machine has had quite a bit of use. So I'm really happy that she's going to be able to come back to life. I think that's a great thing. Okay, I'm just going to try to work on getting this presser bar out here. It's very grungy inside. I'm debating right now how far down I'm going to tear down this machine. I do not like to mess with the gears on the bottom. It's just, you know, I don't like it. Okay, we do have a washer, so that's good. So let me think about that for a little while. I do need to loosen this screw here because that is keeping the needle bar clamped in. Pull that out. Will she come loose? No. Okay, so that's just grime holding it on there. I'm going to spray some penetrating oil in there and let it rest for a bit. All right, I got penetrating oil all over everything, and it looks like it's coming loose now. So there it is, kind of greasy, but it's all good. Let me see if I can pull this block out, keep all of this stuff together over here. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and remove the presser bar lifter lever. This machine does have a timing gauge and timing needle bar height marks there, so that's pretty good. A lot of them that I touch do not have that. Okay, let me go ahead and pull this off down here, the needle clamp. Okay, get this off. Got a little screw down there at the end, and now I can slide the rest of it off. And it has a little thread guide set inside of it that I don't want to lose. The thread guide has this little nub, I don't know if you can see, it has this little nub on it that fits inside the needle bar clamp up against the side that has the screw, like that, okay? So I'm going to put that aside, and then there's another thread guide right here I'm going to take off. Okay, so that's my little thread guide. Got this little screw holding it on. I'm going to keep that with all of my needle clamp stuff. I see these guys who take off everything and just put it, all of their parts into one big tub and wash it, and God bless them, you know. I can't do that because I need to be able to keep track of everything. Having every set of some component together, it helps protect me against the extra screw syndrome at the end of the project where you have a random screw sitting there and you don't know where it goes. It's a lot easier for me to catch myself when I just have one particular baggie of stuff, you know, and if I have one screw left and when I'm done with that baggie of stuff, I know it has to do with something in that component. So I've got that off. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip this back up, and I need to work on, getting the needle bar off. I'm going to get this down to its lowest position here. That looks pretty good. So I can reach in from behind with a screwdriver and loosen up this clamp that's holding the needle bar in. Okay, so that is turning now. I'm just going to go ahead and back it out a lot so I can just remove the whole thing because I'm going to need to anyway. Come on. Very greasy, but I sprayed this whole little cavity with penetrating oil, so. Okay, this is pretty stuck in there. I may have to spray it one more time and do a little bit of tapping before it comes loose. I'm just putting the wooden handle of my little flat hammer down here and tapping up with that. It's coming loose pretty easily. Get some gunk off of there. Let's see if I can pull it all the way. I cannot pull it all the way up because I have one of these guys up here. Oh, and I have not tapped that out. Okay, hang on a second. I got a cap up here that I need to remove really quick. Okay, I got it out. What I did is I lowered my needle bar all the way down, and I have this punch that's bent from a long ago mistake, okay? But the tail end of this punch fits in here really well, so I was able to put that in there, and since this is bent anyway, I could just tap this end and it popped out. So there you go. You know, keep your mistakes. They're good reminders. So now that that is out, I can slide my needle bar out and all is good there. Get this out of the way here. Okay, does this want to come loose? Not right now. I'm going to go ahead and remove this screw here. This is the little Y that releases the pressure on the tension discs when you lift up the presser foot. So I'm going to take that off, just unscrew here. That is the little Y. Okay, I am going to attempt to release this whole thing at once. Well, first let me pull this off. I can see a screw right here that I can access through this hole right here. And there's a little screw here in the casting that looks like it's a screw that's holding this pin in. There's not a screw head up there. I think it's just a pin stuck in there. So I'm going to try to take both of those out and see if I can wiggle this whole thing out as a single unit. So I got my little hammer handle wedged in here to keep it from turning. And it broke free, so that's good. So let me pull this screw out first. Come on, catch for me. Yay, okay. Got my magnet caught that one. And now I need to get a very small screw head to fit into this one over here. It's very tiny. Okay, I think it has come free. Yes, I see action here. So it's a long little screw like that. Save it, and let's see. Okay, I can see that it's starting to come free. There, it just popped right out. Yay. Okay, so this is very dirty. I need to clean it thoroughly, but it's all in one unit. So that's good. I see writing in there. I'm curious what that writing is. Hang on. Let's see, red and gold. I don't know. Is there usually writing inside of a cavity here? Usually when I get to them, they're so nasty. I don't know. It looks like the remnants of a gold decal and a little blotch of red paint right there, which is interesting. Okay. I need to decide about this. I'm going to try to a lot of times these are just so stuck. I'm going to pull this screw out and see if I can get this whole thing out as a unit, because I don't want to pull the needle bar height gauge off of it. I want to try to pull it off all as one. Now this is not coming off easily, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull my gauge off and set it aside. I'll just put it back on later. There's a little ledge on here where the gauge slides on, so I can put it back in the appropriate place. You know what? We're just going to clean this in place. I've had to do that so many times. Just clean it in place, mask it off, call it good. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this screw back in there, because if I do paint this, I don't want paint to go into that little slot. Okay, so this is done. Let me start working on the bottom side. Okay, I'm over here at my bench, and I'm actually going to take off the feed dog's first before I deal with the bottom. It looks like there's just a couple screws here that's holding it on. Okay, I got those. Well, I got one screw off. I'm working on the second one. Gotta use a very short little screwdriver here. I'm trying to time this for when Mark is not doing the lawnmower right outside the window, so. The pressure. Just put a little bit down here. Okay. All right, so a couple little screws like this. This comes right off. Set that aside. Now we're getting into the bobbin case and the race and everything here. Again, there's a lot of lint, so it was used. Okay, so I just went inside, got some lunch, watched Bob Fowler's video on how to remove all of this, and I think I have a better idea. So it's different from most. There's a little clip over here that I need to open. I highly recommend watching his video. I'll try to remember to link it because mine is going to be very sketchy. But I pulled the clips off till they popped, and I have the little retaining ring off now. And here's my bobbin case, okay? Looks dirty, but it doesn't look damaged, just grungy. There's a whole lot of stuff in here. Lots and lots of lint, so, you know, once again, a sign it was used a lot, so God bless her. I'll pull all that out in a bit. So the very top here, it's like the top of the little shaft from underneath. It has a groove in it for a screwdriver. A large bit here, I'm gonna set that in there. And he just said, turn the wheel and crack it. Well, I've already pulled my wheel off, so I just have a little nub here, so that was my handle. I'm just gonna try it without the handle then here. Let's see what I can do. Oh, it does come off very easily. Okay, well, I'm just turning the handle there to unscrew it because that's a lot easier. Okay, so this little screw, a very short little screw, is out. I'm going to go ahead and take this bar off too. There's just two little screws here. I don't know if you can see. Right here, I'm going to take those two screws off. This is what the little bar looks like on the top. On the bottom, it's got a little shelf there. A couple tiny screws holding it on. Put that in its own little baggie, and now hopefully this will lift off. Well, maybe not. I can feel it wiggling. I think it's just a little stuck. Let me wiggle it for a minute. Okay, I just wiggled it off. You can see it's quite linty in here, you know, quite dirty. So it does need a good clean. So I'll keep that all together. That looks like about it for the top side. Let me go ahead and flip this over. Actually, before I flip it all the way over, I'm going to pull this little plate off with its little screw. I need to unscrew this up here, and there's another one down below. So once I pulled this outer plate off, there's an inner plate in here too that should come off. Like that. Okay, keep all of that together. And now I have a very clear view of what's going on inside here. I have a tiny little sliver of something here, a little finger of something. I'm not sure exactly where that goes in this, but I will definitely be keeping it so I don't lose it. What I'm going to do is stick it onto a magnet. I have a bunch of these little round magnets. I'm just going to stick it on here and put this whole little magnet into the little baggie so that it all stays together, and I don't forget about that little mystery piece that I will have to look up. I think I told you I'm not a fan of removing this whole gear. I want to see what it looks like though, so I'm going to go ahead and open up these screws on this cap over here just to see what needs to get cleaned out in those gears. Okay, the big reveal. Let's see here if I can move you. There. So let me pull the cap off. Looks fairly clean inside. Doesn't look bad. It's not full of oil or grease or anything, and it's moving pretty freely. I think that I can just kind of clean it around about, clean up around here, but I'm not going to be removing this. I don't need that trouble in my life. So let me just set this little cap with its screws aside for a minute while I look at this stuff. I'm going to be pulling out this shaft over here, this shaft over here, so I can clean it out really good. These verticals here, I'm going to try to do something with to get that out. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is pull out the pivot screws from over here and over here just to loosen everything up. I'm not sure what size. Let's see. Well, 9/16 fit, so I'm going to see if I can, there you go, it cracks it. I'm just going to go ahead and loosen up these nuts here. Looks like they are all the same size. Yeah, all the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and pull all of these nuts off and their pivot screws and pull that off first. I had to get a socket over here because it was a weird angle. Oops. It was a weird angle where no regular flat wrench would fit in here, but, you know, got it off. So since all of these are basically the same size, I'm just going to put them all together. All right, I'm going to give it a try to take all of this out first. So I'm releasing this screw and its little pronged washer, which should be holding that block for the stitch length in place. Okay, so there's that. And so this block should come free, which it did. It's all pretty much one unit. This looks like it's screwed in there, but that's good. And now I'm hopeful that this fork will come out, and it does. And, oh, don't lose that. Okay, this little rectangular slide piece came out also. And now with this out, I'll be a lot freer to go ahead and take this piece off so I can clean these independently. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it together so I can keep track of everything. Okay, so there is my other shaft here I want to remove, but I want to remove it shaped like an L. So I have this part here and this part here is one unit, pulling it out. And up here, there's around the main shaft. This one comes up, there's like a clamp this way, a clamp this way that goes on top of it, a couple screws at each one of these places to pull out, and then I should be able to pull the whole bottom section out. So to get to the top of these screws, I need to look at it through these little access holes. There was a little chrome plate up here where a spool pin was. That's off right now. So I can just reach through here with a screwdriver, find those little screws. I mean, I have to get right on top of it with a flashlight, find those screws and open those up. I had a difficult time with those clamps up top, so I went back down here, pulled off the nut with a, what is this, 7/16 inch wrench, and I'm just going to try to wiggle this piece off. Since I have that nut off, I should be able to get in here and unscrew this little screw here now. Nice and easy. Okay. Dropping things today. Okay, so this is one of these fabulously shaped pivot-y kind of screws. Not the real terminology there, okay? That goes in here, and I'm gonna set these aside. To show you, I got it off. It took a third hand because I had to hold with one hand the bottom of this over to one side, with another hand a flashlight, with another hand a screwdriver, but you know. Got it off, This is what the top looks like. The oil wick, it's old. It was saturated with my penetrating oil, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a new one in here when I'm putting it back together again. But I think I am just about ready to do my final run through on taking it apart. Okay, I have my little cooler on my table, so if it's too noisy, I'm terribly sorry, but that's what it is. It's hot and humid today. My last thing I need to deal with is the medallion. And if you've been around a while, you know that the medallions are my nemesis. And I've had a lot of people give me ideas on how to remove them. And one that sounded fabulous was tapping it with a small punch to make a divot in the little rivet here. Okay, because there's these two little bitty flowerish shaped rivets. Okay, to tap that so that you have a divot so you can put a tiny drill bit through it and drill it out. And unfortunately, I just must not be skilled enough because I cannot seem to tap this hard and straight enough to get a divot in it. And I don't want to go off track too much and, you know, mess that up. So I'm on to try number 2, which is kind of a chisel method, because there is no way I can get a hammer in there to tap anything out, anything like that. So what I'm doing is I could see when I angle it this way, I don't know if you can see, I doubt you'll be able to see, but I can see the tip of the little rivet popping through right here, okay? Trust me, it's there. So what I've done, I did one and it worked. This time what I'm doing is I'm taking a screwdriver, you know, a regular screwdriver. Actually, I use this one a lot. I'm gonna go get a different one. Hold on a second. Okay, I got a different one. And I'm just putting my screwdriver up at the base of that little rivet. And got my little hammer. And I am just gonna try to cut it off. And that did it. That snapped it right off. So now I don't have long tails on the inside of my machine. So I think right now my big try is going to be if I can pry this straight off, because the depth of these 2 nails is just at that casting level, but it's still something. So I'm just going to try to get a blade underneath here and see how this goes. Can I lift it? Let me play with this. Ooh, look, look. It popped up. Okay, so that's the depth. Hang on. That's how deep the rivet is now. That's at the level of the surface on the inside. So that's still about 1/4 inch, but sliding my razor blade underneath, it came up. So let me try it on this side too. This one's a little more finicky. Let me just move it around here. We are at cast number 5. I always like seeing the little cast numbers underneath the medallions there. Well, I know it can come off, so let me just wiggle with this for a little while. Okay, I got it off. It obviously needs to get cleaned. These are very thin, you know, they're very, very thin. They feel like a little piece of tin. I will polish it and everything, but now I have my 2 little holes here. So I need to be on a quest to find a replacement brad. So I think I'll take one of these into the house and do a search and see if I can find it. It's very small. The head on this thing is, what is that? 1, 2, 3 millimeters? No, it can't be that big. Maybe it is. A 3 millimeter head. So, and it looked like it was about 1/2 inch long. I don't really care that it has the little decorative flower design on the front, as long as it's about those dimensions. So if anybody watching this knows where to get a little rivet that's about 1/2 inch long and the head is about 3 millimeters wide, please let me know. Put it in the comments or something. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and tap out this little thread spool. Cut it. There's a little hook right here that's a thread guide. I'm just gonna try to pull that out. All right, I got it pulled out. It's just a little bent wire, and it just pushes back into that hole when I'm all done. I'm gonna stick this with that little thread pin, just to remind me to put these pretties back at the very end. So at this point, what's still in here? This little tube here. I always have trouble with these tubes. Of course, the main shaft is in here. And there's the main shaft and its lovely cogs, which I'm gonna leave in. I see big chunks of dried grease in here around where these gears are, right here. I'll just try to clean that off the best I can from out here. Where all of my tar was, I'm still picking on that. It's mostly off now. Down at the bottom, I still have this center shaft because I don't want to take off these gears. And it's still all connected. So I'm going to do my best just to clean this in place, clean these gears, and then once that is done, I will be ready to go into the decorating mode, which is very exciting. So I think that is it for today. I hope this wasn't too confusing. These are amazing machines. I do love them. I have one upstairs in my main sewing room that, you know, I rebuilt it about a year or so ago, and it was the first 201 that I had built, and it's a fabulous machine. They are so smooth. Anyone who is really serious about sewing, garment sewing, should have one of these. You know, you know me, I have a lot of machines. I love a lot of machines, but for serious garment sewing, this is one of the must-haves. So I wanted to do one last little thing. I started to clean this. It's like, oh, I should explain what I'm doing. This was just old grime, and I've got that tar stuff over here. And so what I've decided to do is I'm spraying it with Purple Power. I still have my gears covered. Purple Power, you know, my husband swears by it. So I just put a light mist of it. I've got it in my little spray bottle. I just let it sit for a minute, rubbed it in with my little brush, okay? Let me see if I can pop this up here. So you can see this here, I just did a quick swipe, and let me see if I can do this without getting my camera totally disgusting. Just raise my camera up a little bit so it's totally safe, I hope. So I just want to show you, I can turn this. This is where it's still dirty. I've got my little Scotch-Brite Dremel pad here. Give it a swipe, and it's going to pull all of that off. Okay. So I'm kind of just taking it a step at a time, getting this whole shaft clean. And then I'm going to pull these. I am not spraying Purple Power on these gears at all. And so once I pull the gears off, then I'll just carefully take it step by step, making sure that there's nothing, no old grease. Because when I took a quick peek under this one, and there was some hardened old grease in there. So just getting a dental tool to pick that out carefully, clean it down, you know, put some fresh, light coat of very fresh, good grease on there, and then I'll pack it back closed. So that's my plan. Anyhow, see you next time.
I found an antique sewing machine, forgotten and alone. I touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends. prepared the hurts of years and let her sow